story of this journey begins on a quiet night on Earth. The world below is calm, but high above the clouds, something powerful is about to happen. A giant rocket stands on a launch pad, its body shining under bright white lights. Engineers, scientists, and mission controllers watch every number, every screen, every signal. They all know that the next few hours will decide the future of one of the most important space missions in human history. This mission is not simple. It is not safe. It is a journey into the deep heat and danger of our solar system. It is a journey toward Venus, Earth's deadly twin, and then even deeper toward Mercury, the smallest planet and the closest world to the Sun. The spacecraft that will make this journey is small compared to the planets, but it carries something more powerful than size. It carries human curiosity. The narrator explains this moment in calm but dramatic voice. Human beings have always looked up at the sky and wondered, what lies beyond the blue? How far can we go, and what secrets do the planets hide? Tonight, one more question is about to be answered. The countdown begins as the moonlight falls on the launch site. A deep voice begins the countdown. People across the world watch the launch on screens, holding their breath. 10, 9, 8. Inside the rocket, the spacecraft waits silently. It is full of advanced instruments, strong heat shields, and cameras designed to survive unimaginable temperatures. Every part is built for one purpose, to travel where few machines have gone before. 7, 6. Flames begin to spark from the bottom engines. The rocket shivers like a living creature waking up. 5, 4. Mission control officers check the final readings. Fuel pressure stable. Guidance system green. Weather clear. Spacecraft ready. 3, 2, 1. A huge explosion of fire shoots out from the engines. The ground shakes. Clouds of smoke fill the air. The rocket lifts slowly at first, then faster and faster, rising into the night sky like a spear of light. Liftoff, we have liftoff. The narrator's voice echoes. The journey to Venus and Mercury has begun. Leaving Earth behind as the rocket climbs, Earth becomes smaller below. Cities, mountains, rivers, everything slowly turns into tiny shapes. The spacecraft breaks through layers of the atmosphere, shaking violently. But it keeps going, fighting the air, rising higher until the sky turns darker. At last, the rocket reaches the edge of space. In just a few minutes, the spacecraft moves into orbit around Earth. The planet shines below, blue and bright, covered in oceans, clouds, and life. It looks peaceful from above. But the spacecraft knows it cannot stay. The real mission lies much farther away. The narrator explains in simple words, Earth is our home, but to understand our home, we must understand our neighbors. Venus and Mercury are the closest planets to Earth. They hold answers about how planets form, how they change, and how they die. Mission Control sends the final signal. The rocket separates. The spacecraft floats freely now, no longer tied to Earth's gravity. Slowly, its solar panels open like the wings of a mechanical bird. Inside Mission Control, people clap quietly. They know this is only the beginning. The real challenges are still ahead. Why Venus and Mercury? The narrator continues in a calm, documentary tone. For many years, humanity studied Mars, the Moon, and the outer planets. But Venus and Mercury remained mysterious, dangerous, and difficult to reach. Venus is covered in clouds so thick that even sunlight struggles to reach the surface. Mercury is so close to the Sun that temperatures can melt metal. These planets are extreme. They destroy spacecraft quickly, but they also offer secrets. Venus may once have been like Earth, with oceans and life-friendly climate. Now it is a hell-like world with temperatures hot enough to melt lead. Mercury is the oldest surface in the solar system. By studying it, scientists can learn what happened in the early days of our Sun. The narrator adds, to know the future of Earth, scientists must understand the past of Venus and Mercury. This is why the spacecraft has begun its long journey. Crossing Earth's shadow as the spacecraft orbits Earth for the final time, it passes into the planet's shadow. Darkness surrounds it. Only the distant stars shine. The spacecraft feels the cold of space for the first time. Then slowly, it emerges back into sunlight. The golden light touches its body and the panels reflect the rays. It looks like a small metal traveler preparing for a long adventure. Mission Control sends a new command. The spacecraft fires its powerful engine. This engine burn pushes it out of Earth's orbit and sends it toward the inner solar system. Now the Earth begins to shrink. The blue globe becomes a circle, then a small marble, then a faint dot in the distance. The narrator says, every journey begins by leaving something behind. The spacecraft now leaves its home planet, carrying with it the hopes and dreams of millions. The silent road of space is silent. No air, no wind, no sound, only darkness and light. The spacecraft moves smoothly, controlled by gravity and its own small engines. Behind it is Earth. Ahead of it is Venus. The narrator explains, The journey from Earth to Venus is not a straight line. Spacecraft must follow curved paths called orbits. They use gravity like a slingshot to change speed and direction. Over days and weeks, the spacecraft crosses millions of kilometers. It sends signals back to Earth, though the signals become weaker the farther it goes. Inside the spacecraft, cameras remain quiet. Instruments stay cold. Everything is waiting for the moment the spacecraft enters the influence of Venus. A glimpse of the inner planets as the spacecraft moves deeper into space, new views appear. Mercury, a tiny dot near the sun, glows faintly. Venus shines brighter, covered in yellowish-white clouds. The sun also looks bigger now. Its light is stronger, hotter. Solar panels must rotate carefully to avoid overheating. The spacecraft's shields protect its electronics from deadly radiation. The narrator says, "Space is beautiful, but beauty here is dangerous. Every ray of sunlight can burn. Every moment brings new challenges." Yet the spacecraft continues without fear because machines do not fear. They follow commands with perfect focus. The mission's purpose: searching for answers back on Earth, scientists monitor every signal. They know the spacecraft's data will help answer important questions. Why did Venus turn into a hot, poisonous world? Did Mercury once have volcanoes and oceans of lava? Why does Mercury have a huge iron core? Was Venus once Earth-like? What can these planets teach us about Earth's future? These questions drive the mission. The narrator continues, "Every planet is a story. Venus is the story of a world destroyed by its own atmosphere. Mercury is the story of a world shaped by the sun. And Earth is the story still being written." Approaching the first destination after months of travel, the spacecraft receives a new command: prepare for Venus approach. Engines fire again, trajectory changes. The spacecraft begins to feel the strong pull of Venus's gravity. The planet grows larger every day. What was once a bright star now becomes a glowing marble, then a shining world covered in thick yellow clouds. The narrator builds suspense. Beneath those clouds lies a place more dangerous than any world humans have ever visited. Lightning flashes inside the clouds. Winds roar at hundreds of kilometers per hour. Temperatures reach more than 460 degrees Celsius, hotter than any oven on Earth. The pressure on the surface is strong enough to crush a submarine, but the spacecraft is built for this. It will not land. It will study the atmosphere, the clouds, the hidden surface, and the planet's mysterious history. As Venus fills the screen, the narrator says, "The real journey begins now. Beyond these clouds lies a world that hides both beauty and danger." The spacecraft prepares to enter Venus orbit. Instruments activate. Cameras warm up. The mission team back on Earth watches every signal with excitement and fear, because the next step is the most important and the most dangerous part of the journey so far. The spacecraft now travels deeper into the inner solar system. Days turn into weeks. The sun grows brighter with every passing moment. Venus, once a small dot of light, now appears as a huge glowing world. Its thick yellow-white clouds spin slowly like a giant boiling storm hidden inside a curtain of fog. From a distance, Venus looks peaceful, almost beautiful. But the narrator's calm voice reminds the audience of the truth: do not trust the beauty of Venus. Beneath these clouds is the hottest surface in the solar system, a world where life cannot survive. A world of acid, fire, thunder, and pressure. The spacecraft begins to slow down as it enters the gravity field of Venus. A soft vibration runs across its body. The engines adjust direction. The instruments wake up one by one. This is the moment the entire mission has been waiting for. The first close view as the spacecraft gets nearer, it sends its first high-quality images of Venus. The clouds look thick, swirling, and mysterious, like a giant cotton sky mixed with gold and sulfur. Lightning flashes inside them, but only for a second. Mission Control watches the images on large screens. Everyone becomes silent. The narrator says, "For decades, Venus has kept its secrets locked behind clouds of poison. No human eye has seen what lies below. Today, that changes." The spacecraft moves into a stable orbit around Venus. It flies high above the planet, studying it from different angles. Every orbit gives a new view. Bright sunlight reflects on the clouds, creating beautiful shapes. But these clouds are not like Earth's clouds. These clouds are made of sulfuric acid. A dangerous welcome, the spacecraft begins its descent toward the upper atmosphere, not enough to melt, but close enough to feel the danger. The sensors record extremely high temperature. Even at the top of the atmosphere, it is hotter than the hottest deserts on Earth. The narrator explains, "Venus is a planet where heat lives forever. It traps sunlight like a prison. The thick clouds do not let the heat escape. This is called the runaway greenhouse effect." Inside the control room, scientists monitor the spacecraft's temperature. The protective shield heats up quickly. If it gets too hot, the mission could fail before it even begins. But the spacecraft is strong. It was built for this. The wind of Venus. As the spacecraft enters the outer layer of clouds, it feels strong winds. The winds of Venus move faster than its surface, up to 360 kilometers per hour. This means the atmosphere spins around the planet at incredible speed. The narrator adds, if a person stood on Venus, they would not feel these winds. The surface is too heavy, too pressurized. But above the clouds, the winds are wild, unstoppable. The spacecraft begins to shake slightly. The motion sensors activate, but the control system corrects the position perfectly. Venus gives the spacecraft its first test, and the spacecraft survives. The surface that hides below. Now the instrument begins scanning the surface through the thick clouds. Using radar technology, the spacecraft sees shapes hidden beneath: mountains, valleys, volcanoes, and long cracks across the land. Mission Control watches the readings with excitement. Narrator says, Venus is home to more volcanoes than any planet in the solar system. Some scientists believe that many of these volcanoes may still be active. Images reveal massive mountains, including the giant Maxwell Montes, a mountain taller than Mount Everest. There are also plains covered with lava, oceans of rock melted long ago. The narrator continues, Venus may once have been like Earth. It may have had oceans, rain, rivers, and maybe even early life. But something changed. Something happened that turned this planet into a burning world. The cameras also pick up strange glowing patches, heat coming from deep underground. Are these signs of present-day volcanic activity? Scientists cannot be sure yet, but the possibility is thrilling. Storms in the clouds. The spacecraft moves into the second layer of clouds. Here, the environment becomes even more violent. Lightning storms flash inside the clouds. Thunder cannot be heard in space, but the electrical readings show powerful bursts of energy. One flash lights the entire cloud layer bright white. Mission Control Officer whispers, unbelievable, the narrator adds, lightning on Venus is stronger than lightning on Earth. It strikes inside clouds full of acid. This creates a deadly chemical mixture. The spacecraft passes through a region with heavy turbulence. It shakes harder now. Instruments vibrate. The protective shield heats up even more. Warnings flash inside Mission Control. For a moment, everyone becomes tense. Then the spacecraft clears the storm. The readings stabilize. The narrator's voice becomes calm again. The spacecraft survives another test, but the worst is yet to come. The mystery of the lost oceans. The spacecraft now dives to a lower path, still far above the deadly surface, but close enough to analyze the atmosphere in detail. Instruments detect high levels of carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and thick layers of toxic gases. Scientists around the world wait for the atmosphere results. The narrator says, scientists believe Venus once had oceans as deep as Earth's, but the sun slowly heated Venus more and more. The oceans boiled. The water vanished into space. The spacecraft detects hydrogen particles escaping into space. This is a clue that water once existed here. Then it sends a surprising signal, a chemical signature that hints at something strange. Maybe something unknown in the atmosphere, something that does not match normal rules, something that might be natural or something much more mysterious. Mission Control becomes quiet again. The narrator whispers, Venus still hides secrets, secrets that may change everything we know about planets. The crush of pressure. The spacecraft does not go down to the surface. No spacecraft can survive there for long. The pressure on Venus's surface is 92 times stronger than Earth. It is like being 900 meters under the ocean. But the spacecraft sends radar waves deep enough to measure the pressure effects. It records ground shapes bent, twisted, and cracked under the extreme pressure. The narrator explains, imagine a world where the air can crush metal. That is Venus. This is one of the reasons no human mission can go to the surface. A world of fire. Now the spacecraft maps the heat of the surface. Every mountain, every crater, every valley glows with deadly temperature. The color map shows red, orange, and yellow, the colors of intense fire. The narrator adds, Venus is hotter than Mercury, even though Mercury is closer to the sun. This is the power of Venus's thick atmosphere. The spacecraft also finds evidence of ancient lava flows, long rivers of melted rock that once flooded the planet. Some of them may still be warm. This discovery shocks Mission Control. It means Venus might not be a silent planet. It might still be alive inside. Trouble in orbit. As the spacecraft completes another orbit, something unexpected happens. A strange signal begins to interfere with communication. Static noise fills the speakers. The images become blurry. The spacecraft itself is stable, but something in the atmosphere is blocking the signals. Mission Control tries several frequencies. Many fail. The spacecraft turns its antenna toward Earth, but the signal remains weak. The narrator says, Venus is not just a dangerous planet. It is also unpredictable. Its atmosphere does not always allow signals to pass easily. Scientists worry. If the spacecraft loses contact completely, the mission could end right here above the clouds of Venus. Then suddenly, the spacecraft sends a clear signal, everyone breathes again. But the mystery remains what caused the communication to fail: a storm, a magnetic field, or something unknown. A hidden structure in the clouds. As the spacecraft continues scanning the planet, a strange shape appears in one of the radar images. It is not a mountain, not a volcano, not a natural formation. It looks too straight, too organized, too perfect to be random. Scientists stare at the screen. The narrator's voice drops. What the spacecraft finds here no one expected. Mission Control zooms in. The shape disappears behind clouds. Another scan shows something faint, like a huge geometric pattern under the thick atmosphere. The screen flashes again. The pattern becomes clearer, something massive, something old, something unnatural. The spacecraft begins to adjust for a lower orbit to scan again. And then, suddenly, the alarms inside the spacecraft activate. The temperature is rising dangerously. Something is wrong, very wrong. The spacecraft may not survive the next few minutes. The narrator ends with a powerful cliffhanger. As the spacecraft moves deeper into Venus's deadly clouds, it faces a danger greater than heat, pressure, or storms. Something waits below, something no machine has ever seen. And now, the spacecraft must survive long enough to reveal the truth. The spacecraft has narrowly escaped the burning clouds of Venus. Its shields are hot, its systems tired, but it continues its mission. After several hours of cooling and stabilizing, the spacecraft slowly leaves Venus's orbit. The thick yellow planet begins to shrink behind it, becoming a glowing marble of poison and mystery. Mission Control finally relaxes, but only for a moment. Everyone knows that the next stage of the journey is even more dangerous. The narrator begins with a chilling line. Leaving Venus was a victory, but the space between Venus and Mercury is not empty. It is a battleground of fire and darkness. Into the solar furnace, as the spacecraft moves closer to the sun, everything changes. Sunlight grows stronger, brighter than anything experienced near Earth. Solar radiation becomes intense. Even the cameras begin to struggle with the brightness. The shadows disappear. Light fills every corner of the spacecraft. The narrator explains. Closer to the sun, darkness becomes rare. Even space glows. This region is the hottest place a spacecraft can travel without melting. The spacecraft activates its strongest heat shield. A layer of protection slides into place like a warrior raising a shield before battle. Inside Mission Control, scientists monitor the temperature readings. Every few minutes the numbers rise, slowly but steadily. If the temperature crosses the limit, the spacecraft's electronics could fry. Radiation storm. A sudden alarm rings through Mission Control. Solar flare detected. Brace for impact. The sun unleashes a burst of energy, an explosion of charged particles racing through space faster than any bullet. These particles can damage circuits, destroy sensors, and erase data. The spacecraft's magnetic shields activate. Small electric shocks run across its body as protection systems try to shield it from the storm. The narrator calmly describes the chaos. Solar flares are storms of fire. They can knock out satellites near Earth, but here they can destroy a spacecraft in seconds. The radiation storm hits, the spacecraft shakes, signals become distorted, some instruments shut down automatically to protect themselves. Mission Control loses contact for a full minute. That minute feels like an hour. Then a weak signal returns. The spacecraft has survived the flare. The silence of deep space. After the storm passes, everything becomes quiet again. Too quiet. There is no wind, no sound, only the hum of the spacecraft systems. Far behind, Venus glows dimly. Far ahead, Mercury is still a tiny dot. The sun, however, looks huge, almost frightening. Mission Control receives slow, calm signals again. The spacecraft seems stable, but something feels strange. The narrator notes, the closer the spacecraft gets to Mercury, the more unstable its path becomes. The sun's gravity begins to pull harder. This is the most dangerous part of the journey, the sun's gravity well. The gravity trap. The spacecraft moves into a region where the sun's gravitational pull becomes extremely strong. It is like walking closer to a powerful magnet. You cannot stop moving. To avoid falling straight into the sun, the spacecraft must fire its engines at exactly the right time. Mission Control prepares for the burn. Engine ready? Thrusters online, all systems green. The engine burn begins. Fire shoots out of the spacecraft, slowing it down just enough so it can turn toward Mercury, but the heat around the spacecraft rises again. The engine firing pushes the heat shields to their limit. Sensors begin to blink red. Mission Control watches silently, sweating. After several minutes, the burn completes. The spacecraft stabilizes. The narrator speaks softly. The spacecraft survives again, but the sun is not done with it. Meteor dust zone. As the spacecraft continues, it enters a region filled with tiny rocks and dust, leftover pieces from ancient comets. These particles move at incredible speeds. Even dust smaller than a grain of sand can pierce metal at such velocity. Small impacts begin hitting the spacecraft. Tick, 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 tick. Mission Control hears the impact reports. Each one is a reminder of the danger outside. The narrator describes, the inner solar system is not empty. It is filled with debris from billions of years of cosmic activity. Bigger meteoroids pass nearby, some glowing as they burn from sunlight exposure. One large rock comes dangerously close. The spacecraft automatically changes its path. The sensors scream warnings. The rock misses by just a few kilometers. In space terms, that is too close. A strange shadow. Suddenly, the cameras detect something odd, something unexpected. A shadow moves across the spacecraft's view. But where is it coming from? There is no moon nearby, no planetary object close enough to cast a shadow. Mission Control checks all tracking logs. Nothing is there, at least nothing that should be. The shadow moves again. The narrator whispers, a shadow in space is not normal. Something is blocking the light, something unknown. Scientists zoom the camera feed. The shadow appears faint, blurry, but definitely real. And then it disappears. No explanation. Approaching the dark side of space. As the spacecraft continues its journey, it begins to enter a region where sunlight becomes extremely intense on one side and almost pitch black on the other. This is due to the angle of travel. One side of the spacecraft burns in sunlight, the other freezes in darkness. This extreme contrast puts stress on its body. Metal expands on the hot side. Metal contracts on the cold side. This creates small but dangerous pressure within the spacecraft. Mission Control notices the strain. This is not good. Temperature difference rising. The spacecraft adjusts its position slowly, rotating to balance the heat. The narrator says, in space, heat and cold are not simple. They can tear metal apart. The spacecraft manages to stabilize, but only just. The secret of the inner solar system. Now the spacecraft enters a region that is rarely visited. Very few missions have survived this deep into the sun's reach. Here, the sun's magnetic field twists space into invisible tunnels. Radiation flows like rivers. Gravity bends light. Everything behaves differently. The narrator explains, near the sun, the laws of physics begin to feel strange. Even time and space behave differently. Mercury orbits in a way scientists struggled to understand for centuries. This region teaches scientists about the early days of the solar system. The spacecraft's sensors begin picking up anomalies, strange waves of energy that do not match normal solar patterns. What is that? Signal repeating. This is not solar noise. Mission Control becomes tense. The signals continue pulsing like a heartbeat. Mercury, the first glimpse finally after weeks in the deadly region. A small gray planet appears ahead. Mercury, cratered, scarred, ancient. The spacecraft zooms in. The surface looks rough, filled with deep shadows and giant cliffs. The narrator describes, Mercury is older than Earth, older than Venus. It carries the memories of the solar system's violent past. But as the spacecraft gets closer, something unexpected appears in the images. Not just craters, not just cliffs, but something else, something bright, something reflective, something shining on Mercury's surface. Mission Control zooms in. The object shines again. It looks smooth, metallic, almost like a structure. Scientists gasp. What is that? Zoom further. Is this natural or something else? But before they can analyze more, the light from the sun changes. The sun releases another massive burst of energy. The spacecraft enters a zone of extreme radiation again. Everything shakes. Cameras flicker. Instruments turn red. But this time, something is different. The radiation storm is stronger, wilder, unpredictable. Communication weakens. Mercury is right there, but the spacecraft cannot move forward. The narrator ends with a chilling cliffhanger. The spacecraft has reached the doorstep of Mercury. But a storm of fire blocks its path, and on Mercury's surface, something strange waits to be discovered. Will the spacecraft survive long enough to reveal the truth? Or will the sun claim another victim before the secrets of Mercury are exposed? The spacecraft floats at the edge of a solar storm, caught between the burning sunlight and the magnetic violence around Mercury. It has survived Venus, survived the deep regions of the sun's power, but now it faces its hardest test. The radiation storm pushes against it like a cosmic wave, forcing the spacecraft to hold position. Mission Control watches the sensors intensely. Solar radiation rising, shields at maximum. Hold position, hold position. The narrator speaks with calm tension. The spacecraft has reached Mercury, a world older than time itself, but before it can touch the planet's secrets, it must survive the sun's fury once more. The storm breaks after several minutes that feel like hours. The solar storm slowly weakens. Radiation decreases. The shaking stops. Communication stabilizes. The spacecraft carefully activates its thrusters and begins its descent toward Mercury's orbit. The small gray planet grows larger in its view. Craters cover every inch of its surface. Deep shadows cut across tall cliffs. The planet looks like a world frozen in time, untouched, unchanged, ancient. The narrator continues. Mercury is a survivor. It has no thick atmosphere to protect it. For billions of years, meteors have crashed into it. Storms from the sun have burned it and extreme temperatures have changed it, yet it stands unchanged. The first orbit, the spacecraft finally enters Mercury's gravity field. Its path curves smoothly around the planet. This first orbit is high, far above the surface. From here, Mercury looks like a silver-gray world full of scars from the past. Instrumentation begins scanning the surface. The narrator explains, unlike Earth or Venus, Mercury has no air, no clouds, no protection. Every rock, every mountain, every crater is exposed directly to the sun. Mercury rotates slowly. One day on Mercury lasts almost 59 Earth days. This means one side burns in constant sunlight while the other side freezes in darkness. The spacecraft's heat sensors pick up shocking numbers: daytime temperature, 430 degrees C, nighttime temperature, 180 degrees C. One side is hotter than an oven. The other is colder than the coldest winter on Earth. This extreme temperature difference is dangerous even for machines. The mystery on the surface as the spacecraft scans the craters, something catches the attention of mission control. A bright reflection, a flash of light from a rocky area near a huge crater called Caloris Basin. The same mysterious reflection seen earlier. Scientists zoom the camera. The object appears again, smooth, metallic, reflecting sunlight. The narrator poses the question. Mercury has no life. No cities, no machines, so what is shining on its surface? It could be ice, it could be metal, it could be something else entirely. The spacecraft adjusts its orbit to get a closer look. The Caloris Basin below the spacecraft lies one of the largest impact craters in the solar system, the Caloris Basin. It is 500 kilometers wide, formed by a massive ancient asteroid. The narrator describes it. Caloris Basin is a scar from the early days of the solar system, when giant rocks crashed into planets, shaping their futures. The spacecraft sends radar waves deep into the crater. The radar shows strange shapes under the surface, layers of rock folded like paper, twisted by a force long forgotten. Scientists believe the entire surface may have once melted from the heat of the impact. But then the spacecraft scans deeper and finds something unexpected. Strange magnetic fields. Mercury has a magnetic field, weak but unique. No one fully understands why such a small planet has one. The spacecraft detects sudden fluctuations in that magnetic field. The lines of force twist and turn like they are reacting to something. Mission control becomes alert. What's causing the disturbance? Is it the sun? Is it coming from the surface? The spacecraft sends more scans. The magnetic wave seems strongest near the same region where the mysterious shining object was seen. The narrator's voice deepens. Something on Mercury is affecting its magnetic field, something powerful enough to change invisible forces. A closer look, the spacecraft lowers its orbit. Now the surface looks detailed: rocky plains, giant cliffs, deep cracks. One cliff is so large it stretches hundreds of kilometers. It looks like the entire planet shrank and broke its own skin. The narrator explains, Mercury is shrinking. As its core cools, the crust folds and cracks. This creates huge cliffs called scarps. But the mysterious object is far more interesting. The spacecraft focuses its camera on it. The image grows sharper, clearer, and now mission control can finally see it. A long, smooth shape, silver-like, perfectly straight, almost like a piece of something artificial. This cannot be natural. Are we sure this is the right data? Run scans again. The narrator whispers. After billions of years of silence, something on Mercury shines back. Signs of metal in a place where metal should not exist. The sensors detect high levels of iron, nickel, and an unknown alloy. Unknown, not found in normal Mercury rocks. Some scientists suggest it could be leftover from an ancient asteroid. Others suggest it could be something buried long ago. The spacecraft begins to descend lower to collect more detailed scans. But as it does, it tremors on a dead planet. The ground below suddenly shifts. A small quake. Impossible. Mercury has no tectonic plates like Earth, no active volcanoes like Venus, but the readings are clear. Something shook the surface. Dust rises from the crater. The metallic object disappears under a cloud of debris. Mission control becomes silent. What caused the quake? Is the ground unstable? Is the object still visible? The spacecraft begins another scan, but something else interrupts. Heat spike. The spacecraft detects a sudden surge of heat coming from beneath the surface. Not sunlight, not reflection. Something inside Mercury is releasing heat. The narrator explains. Mercury was thought to be geologically dead, but the heat readings tell another story. Mission Control checks the sensors again. The heat continues to rise. Something is happening below the crust. Something powerful. Maybe volcanic, maybe chemical, maybe mechanical, no one knows. The mysterious cavern radar scans show a hollow space under the metallic object, a giant cavern. The walls of this cavern seem smooth, curved, and strangely symmetrical. This cannot be a natural cave. The spacecraft sends deeper radar waves and detects something inside the cavern, something massive, something shaped like a sphere. The narrator says, deep beneath Mercury's surface, something waits, something untouched for billions of years. Scientists stare at the incoming data. What is that? A dome, a chamber, a metallic sphere underground. The spacecraft prepares to scan again, but suddenly Mercury's shadow falls. The spacecraft moves into Mercury's night side, the dark side of the planet. Instantly, the temperature drops from burning heat to freezing cold. The spacecraft systems struggle to balance the extreme change. One camera shuts down, then another, and several sensors. Mission Control tries to reboot them. No signal from camera 3. Thermal system struggling. Stabilize, stabilize. The spacecraft shivers under the cold, metal contracts dangerously. Some panels bend slightly. The narrator warns, on Mercury's dark side, even machines can freeze. But then something even stranger happens. A light in the darkness as the spacecraft drifts across the cold, dark surface. A light appears below. A soft blue light, glowing from the ground, from the same region where the metallic object was found. Mission Control jumps in confusion. What is that? Is Mercury glowing? Is it reflection? No, sir, this is coming from beneath the surface. The blue light grows brighter gently, slowly, as if waking up. The narrator ends part 4 with a chilling cliffhanger. The spacecraft has uncovered something hidden beneath Mercury's ancient skin, something glowing in the silent darkness. Is it natural? Is it ancient technology, or something even stranger? The truth lies below, and the spacecraft is heading straight toward it. The spacecraft drifts silently above the dark side of Mercury. The planet's frozen plains stretch below like endless black stone. No sunlight reaches here. No warmth. No shadows. Only cold that can turn metal hard as glass. And in the middle of that darkness, the blue light still glows. It pulses softly like a heartbeat. Mission Control stares at the screen. No one speaks. No one moves. A world with no atmosphere, no life, no heat should not glow, yet Mercury does. The narrator speaks slowly, almost whispering. For billions of years, Mercury was silent, but tonight something beneath its surface wakes. Descent to the unknown, the spacecraft adjusts its orbit, lowering itself for a closer scan. Its body groans under the sudden cold. The temperature sensors flash warnings, but the command is clear: get closer, observe, understand. The camera zooms in. The blue light forms a long, curved pattern beneath the rocky surface, almost like veins glowing inside stone. As the spacecraft rotates, the light seems to shift, ripple, respond. Mission Control grows tense. Is it reacting to us? Is it natural? Is it communication? The narrator adds, even in the most hostile worlds, nature creates wonders. But this pattern is too clean, too smooth, too perfect. The spacecraft lowers further, only a few hundred meters above the ground. Dust moves below, stirred by its thrusters. The blue light brightens. The sphere beneath the spacecraft sends a radar pulse deep into the cavern detected earlier. The returning signal shocks everyone. The metallic sphere is enormous, hundreds of meters wide, perfectly round. Too round for nature. It rests inside a hollow chamber protected by layers of rock. The sphere pulses softly with the same blue light. The narrator says, a sphere so perfect, so untouched, cannot be chance. Something placed it here or built it here long, long ago. Mission Control scientists debate rapidly. Is it alien, artificial, a natural crystal, a magnetic anomaly? No answer is certain. The spacecraft begins preparing for a deeper scan, one that might reveal the inner materials of the sphere. But then something unexpected happens. The light spreads. The blue glow is no longer staying underground. It spreads outward, across the cavern ceiling, across the surface cracks, across the dusty plains, like energy flowing through veins. The narrator speaks. Something beneath Mercury is waking up. The sensors detect a sudden rise in temperature, tiny but rising. This is impossible. The dark side of Mercury should remain frozen. Nothing should warm this quickly. Mission Control becomes anxious. Sphere generating heat. Is this dangerous? Should we pull back? But the spacecraft continues its orbit, curious, brave, silent. Whispers of electromagnetic waves, a strange signal begins to flow through the spacecraft's antenna. Not solar radiation, not Mercury's natural EM waves. A repeating pattern, a rhythm, almost like a message. Mission Control checks the pattern again. It's repeating every 11 seconds. That's not random. This looks intentional. The narrator explains. In nature, randomness is common. Patterns are rare, and repeated patterns are messages. The spacecraft records the signal. It sounds like pulses of soft energy, gentle but structured. Mission Control tries decoding it. The result is unclear. Some parts look like mathematical sequences, others like compressed information. But one thing is clear, this signal is coming from the sphere. Mercury awakens, the spacecraft's orbit carries it back into sunlight. The frozen darkness is replaced suddenly by blazing heat. The temperature jumps instantly. The blue light fades beneath the surface, but only for a moment. Then it glows stronger. The sphere beneath Mercury energizes faster in sunlight, as if absorbing it through layers of rock. Mission Control is stunned. This thing is reacting to the sun. Is it a solar-powered object? Is it charging? Or awakening? The narrator speaks carefully. For billions of years, Mercury has been closest to the sun. If something ancient hid here, it has waited in the heat of a star. The sun greets the spacecraft. Now the spacecraft begins its next stage, a close solar pass. It opens its heat shields fully. Panels shift. Protective layers slide into position. The spacecraft prepares for the closest approach to the sun in its entire mission. The narrator says, the final journey begins now. To understand Mercury, the spacecraft must face the sun itself. The sun is enormous in the camera view, a giant sphere of fire, a living furnace of plasma. Solar arcs loop across its surface like fiery rivers. Explosions of light burst silently into space. The spacecraft gently drifts toward this burning giant, protected by only a few layers of engineered material. Mission Control watches nervously. Shield temperature rising. Hold position. Do not cross safety limit. The spacecraft edges closer to the sun. A shocking discovery: the sensors detect a strange energy wave, similar to the pattern from Mercury but much stronger, coming directly from the sun. The same rhythm, the same repeated sequence, the same pulse. The narrator whispers, the signal from the sphere is echoed by the sun. For the first time, scientists consider the possibility that the sphere and the sun are connected. Ancient technology, a forgotten natural phenomenon. A solar echo created by magnetic fields. They don't know yet, but the match is undeniable. The spacecraft continues deeper, almost touching the threshold where metal melts. Suddenly, a wave of fire, the sun releases an enormous solar flare, one bigger than anything previously recorded. The flare expands like a giant hand made of fire, reaching toward the spacecraft. The alarms scream inside Mission Control. Firewall approaching. Shields will not hold. Pull back now. But before they can send a retreat signal, the spacecraft is engulfed in plasma. Solar fire covers its body. Radiation storms hammer its shields. Signals begin to break. Camera feeds blur into white light. Instruments blink and die. The spacecraft shakes violently. And then silence, a cold silence. The signal is gone. Mission Control feels the air freeze. Do we have anything? Telemetry? Heartbeat signal? Is the spacecraft alive? Nothing, just static. The narrator says, in the heart of a star's fury, even the strongest machine can disappear. But then a final signal, one weak transmission appears, barely readable, full of noise. A single image. Mission Control clears the screen. The noise disappears slowly. The image becomes sharper. It shows a glowing network of blue lines, not on Mercury, but inside the solar flare itself. The same pattern, the same rhythm, the same pulse. The sun is showing the same blueprint as the sphere on Mercury. The narrator speaks in a low voice. Something ancient ties Mercury and the sun. The image flickers again. A second image appears. This one shows a shape huge, bright, and hidden within the plasma storm. A circular structure, a doorway, a giant eye of light. The picture glitches before Mission Control can identify it. Then the final cliffhanger, the signal ends abruptly. The screen becomes black. No connection. No data, no response from the spacecraft. The narrator ends with the strongest cliffhanger of the series. The spacecraft has discovered something extraordinary, something hidden in Mercury's rocks and in the fire of the sun. But now it drifts in silence, lost in light. What did the spacecraft see? What connects the sun and Mercury? And will the truth ever return to Earth? The journey is not over. The mystery of the universe has only begun.